We are living in very, very strange times. In my generation, in this lifetime, I've never seen anything like this, where an entire nation, matter of fact, many nations have gone into complete lockdown, where people can only leave the house for essentials such as shopping and maybe the odd taking a walk, like what I'm doing right now in the park. But other than that, it is a complete lockdown. Let's get the basics out of the way first. So in this time where the world is fighting the spread of COVID-19 or coronavirus, the health experts' advice is that we continue to wash our hands thoroughly, keep our distance from other people. That's when we're out, obviously, and when we're on the inside, quarantine or self-isolate. And this isn't in any way a measure to make people's lives miserable and to try and take away their liberties. Quite the opposite. They're trying to control the virus as soon as possible. And the only way for that to happen is if we do our part by staying at home. Doctors and nurses are working day and night to try and maintain this virus, and in the process many doctors and nurses have actually lost their lives because they've also contracted the virus in the process of treating other patients. So it is very, very serious. It's not something that needs to be taken very lightly, and we all need to do our part by staying at home. Why do we have to stay at home? Because if everybody stays at home, then someone that may already have the virus but is not showing the symptoms can spread it to somebody else who they bumped into on the road, and then that person will not know that they have the virus and they will take it and spread it to someone else. So the best way to control this virus right now is to stay in quarantine, at least until public health advice says otherwise. So this is what we need to do: wash our hands, take lots of vitamin C to help with your immune system, and wash your hands and keep your distance from other people. Now these are the basics. Now, on a personal level, the way that things are going right now, and this is just my personal opinion, nothing could be more so debilitating than fear. A lot of people are living on fear, and we need to deal with this. How do we deal with this? We need to equip ourselves with the latest information out there. We need to keep up with what is being said, what advances have been made in terms of dealing with this virus. But at the same time, we need to watch out for false information. So we have to use a little bit of common sense. And if you find information that may not necessarily be coming from official bodies, health experts, then it's probably a good idea to take it with a pinch of salt rather than taking it as something that may actually have some value. There's a lot of advice out there with regards to how to prepare for coronavirus or treat coronavirus, but if it's not coming from the health experts, as long as it's not something that damages your health, you may be able to, it probably doesn't hurt to try. Like, there's a lot of information out there that talks about taking lots of ginger, garlic, oranges and lemons and this and that. It probably won't hurt, but it may not necessarily be a cure, as maybe some are touting it out there. So we need to be very, very vigilant in terms of what's accurate and what's not out there. Other than that, the other thing that I want to talk about right now is that there has never been a time, as the time that we're living in right now, where it's like we have been given a chance to get out of our very, very busy lives and try to sit down and reset our clock, reset our mentality. We've been living this crazy life of busy bees, chasing careers and jobs and this and that, and that's still going to be there when this pandemic is totally under control. But what I'm trying to say is, this is probably a good time to re-evaluate our priorities. Do we have our house in order? So say, for example, if I was vulnerable to coronavirus right now and my house is not in order, when I say when my house is not in order, I'm talking about, do I have any outstanding issues with people? Do I have any beef with anybody? Are there people with whom I have unresolved issues? If I was to go now, would I go in peace? That's the question that I'm asking myself. So, life is very, very vulnerable as it stands. It's fragile. Anything can happen at any moment. I know that everyone is now on high alert in terms of the value of life, because there is this very vicious virus that's just claiming lives left, right, and center. But the truth is, every day we live with a risk. I can walk out into the street, I can get hit by a bus, I could be in the wrong place at the wrong time, there's a robbery happening, somebody shoots, I'm caught in the crossfire, and anything can happen. I can slip and fall down, I could have a heart attack. So coronavirus isn't really the only thing that really should get us really thinking about how we live our lives. The only difference is, this is kind of giving us more time to evaluate what's happening, because it's happening everywhere. And with this ample time that we have been given to spend at home, probably with loved ones if you've got a family, I think it's really, really good to evaluate how we live our lives, and most importantly to get right with God. We need to get right with God. If we have pushed God to the back of our list, then this is probably a good time. Consider this our virtual walk in the wilderness, because that's what happens when you need to meet God in your time of need. Then sometimes you have to go out into the wilderness in isolation, where you will have the time to give your undivided attention to really figure out what it is that is most important to you in your life. So, let's not live by fear. Let's live by hope. Let's live by faith. And let's pray. Obviously, let's take the public health advice seriously. That's what we need to do. We need to follow advice by experts, and then we also need to make sure that our hearts are in the right place at this time. There are those that are still irresponsible enough to flout the regulations. There are many people that still, get together, and that's very irresponsible. That's very careless. The longer that people continue to disobey and disregard public health advice, the longer that this lockdown will continue. So if we want this lockdown to be over and done with, we need to comply with the regulations, and we need to be able to stay at home until this thing is out of the way. Obviously, London, for example, is in lockdown right now, but there are things that you can still do. Like right now, I'm not in violation of the law. The government has said that people are allowed to leave the house at least once a day, for a little bit of exercise, to walk in the park, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm keeping my distance from other people. As you can see, there's nobody within, I'd say, a pretty good 10-20 meters away from me, so I'm keeping myself to myself. And as soon as I'm done with this walk, I'm going to go straight back home. No contact, no physical contact. I won't be talking to anybody, and if I do see somebody that I know, then it'll probably be a little chat from a distance, but it's very highly unlikely that I will bump into anybody that I know in this area. So let's do our parts. Most importantly, let's think about the people that are vulnerable. There are people in the vulnerable bracket whose lives are at greater risk. Maybe those of us who do not have any underlying health problems. We may think, we'll get through it. Many people have survived and everything. Yeah, that's a possibility, but don't be selfish. Don't just think about yourself. Think about the people that you may come into contact and they may not be able to make it simply because their immune system is weak, simply because they fall into that age bracket where they are vulnerable. I'm talking about the elderly, I'm talking about pregnant women, and everybody else that has underlying health problems. So let's look out for one another. This is a time to stand united. This virus knows no race, no gender, no nationality, no ideology, no political leaning, nothing whatsoever. Anyone and everyone can get it, and we need to play our part to make sure that this thing stops. So let's do what we can do. And again, I'd like to say that there are some people who will take things to extreme and say, I've got enough faith that nothing will happen to me. I will do whatever I do, the way I do, what I do, whenever I do, and I'm going to be just fine. Okay, all right. So if that's the case, if you have enough faith, now don't forget, faith without works is dead. Your faith has to be intelligent faith. If you're telling me that you have enough faith to get through this, it doesn't mean that you won't get the virus. It may just be that you will get the virus and you can spread it to other people. So that's not you become an accomplice with the virus to get to those that are vulnerable. So faith doesn't work that way. It's like telling me you're going to go to the tallest building and you're going to jump from the roof and say, I have enough faith that I'll get to the ground and I'll be fine. Well, I haven't seen anyone do that yet, where someone is going to jump from the top of the roof just because they have faith that nothing will happen to them. Do not forget what the Bible says. Do not tempt the Lord your God. So let's not be the authors of our downfall. Let's be very smart about it. Let's continue to pray. Let's continue to seek God. Seek God. This is the perfect time when our hearts and souls are prepared for salvation. Let's really seek God, but at the same time, let's stay safe. Let's stay healthy. Let's protect our loved ones and everybody else. If we want this out of the way, we got to do our parts. This is not the first time that the world has faced a pandemic, and the good news is there has never been a better time to fight such a pandemic because of the advancement in science and technology, as opposed to the pandemics of the 1920s, the 1820s, the 1720s. This is not the first time, and the world has survived these pandemics. The world is still standing by the grace of God. So let's give the doctors and the scientists the opportunity to deal with it, but we need to do our part. Let's stay at home, wash our hands, and look, we're not exactly like in prison. You've got the internet. You can call your friends, do video chat, watch your favorite programs, but most importantly, spend it with the people under your roof that you love, and spend a lot of time with God. This is a good time to reconnect. And on that note, I'm going to leave you until next time, because I need to get back to completing my daily morning walk routine. Love you guys. God bless you. Speak to you soon.